Hey, it's Mr. E here, and in this video we're going to look at how we could use trig to find missing angles. So there are the trig ratios to remind you of them, and let's get to it. In example 1 it says find the measure of angle alpha. So here is our missing angle alpha. 20 is, of course, the hypotenuse, and 13 is adjacent to angle alpha. So the trig ratio that would make sense to use here is the cosine ratio, because it involves the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So that's the formula that I have to use for example 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write the cosine of alpha equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And then now I'm just going to go ahead and substitute. So I get cosine of alpha equals 13 over 20. And 13 divided by 20 is something I can divide. And when I divide that, I get 0.65. So now I got the cosine of alpha equals 0.65. So I got to find angle alpha, right? I got to get rid of that cosine. So how do I get rid of cosine? Well, the way to do that is you have to do the inverse of cosine on both sides of the equation, right? That's how you solve equations. You solve equations by doing the inverse or the opposite, right? So I got to do the opposite of cosine or the inverse of cosine. And that's something that the calculator can do for me. So I have to do cosine to the -1. That means inverse cosine of 0.65. And doing that, I will get the angle alpha. So I'm just writing it out first, and now I'm going to show you how to do that on the calculator. So on the calculator, you're going to press, second cosine and then 0.65. And just a rule of thumb, you will always do this type of calculation when you're looking for a missing angle. So the inverse cosine of 0.65 comes out to 49.5 rounded to the nearest tenth. So we'll leave it at that. That is our final answer. All right, let's try another example. Example 2. Find the measure of angle B. So here's angle B, and 42 is the hypotenuse, and the 40 is opposite from the angle B. So we know we have to use the sine ratio. So it's the sine of B equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we will substitute and we will get 40 over 42, and we get sine of B equals 40 divided by 42, which is 0.9524, rounded to 4 decimal places. So you always want to round to 4 decimal places while you're doing these trig problems. So we round this to 4 decimal places, and now we got to do the opposite of sine. We got to do the inverse of sine. So we're going to do second sine of 0.9524, and we get approximately 72.3 to the nearest tenth. So when we do the opposite of sine on both sides, we get 72.3 degrees. That is our final answer. All right, one more. Find the measure of angle C. So here's angle C. Whoops. Here's angle C. and the 14 is opposite, and the 29 is adjacent. So we are going to use the tan ratio. So it's going to be the tan of C equals the opposite, which is 14, over the adjacent, which is 29. Now, I'm going to show you a little shortcut here. You could divide round to 4 decimal places, then do the opposite of tan, as we've been doing. Or you could just do this. Do second tan, and then instead of doing the 14 divided by 29, and then doing the inverse tan, just do that all here in one step. Do inverse tan of 14 divided by 29, and you get your answer. So here's what we did, right? We did inverse tan of 14 divided by 29, and we got 25.8 degrees when we round it to the nearest tenth. This is our final answer. All right. I hope this video helps with finding missing angles using trig ratios and right triangles. Take care. Peace.